No threats, no ultimatums, no bravado, not even the acknowledgement that an American captain's life was at risk. Joining me now from Washington is well-known author, former Bush White House spokesperson, Scott McClellan. Scott, thanks so much for being with us.
Glad to be here, Rick, and I don't want to be press secretary again, so thanks for making that clear. Once is enough.
Tough job, my friend. What did you think of the president's handling of this? And really, you know what? It's marked contrast to your boss's more brazen style in situations like this.
Well, that's right. I mean, what people remember of President Bush, of course, is mission accomplished and the bravado that you talked about earlier. As for any presidency, the president is going to be judged by his policies and what the end result is. And the end result here was a great success story. President Obama was quietly managing the situation behind the scenes. He was receiving criticism in the 24/7 news cycle that has to look for instant results and instant gratification.
Yeah.
But all the while, he was sitting there behind the scenes, giving the orders to go ahead with deadly force if necessary to rescue Captain Phillips, and not really negotiating with these pirates or terrorists, whatever you want to call them. And it's a great success story. And so he is to be praised or given credit for that success.
Let's talk about the difference in style, though, because your boss, President Bush, was much more full of bluster. I mean, look, he talked about crusades. He talked about good versus evil. He talked about the axis of evil. He said dead or alive at one point. And then there was this July 2nd, 2003, when asked about the insurgency, he said this.
Anybody who wants to harm American troops will be found and brought to justice. There are some who feel like that if they attack us, that we may decide to leave prematurely. They don't understand what they're talking about if that's the case. Let me finish. There are some who feel like that, the conditions are such that they can attack us there. My answer is bring them on.
Bring them on. When you heard that, what'd you think?
Immediately cringed. That was kind of an ad lib, and the president has since come to say he regretted making those comments. There are some others that he didn't take back that he maybe should have as well, but that was one he clearly regretted saying because it sent the wrong message. You go back to something that was very similar, though, with the Bush presidency was the EP-3 spy incidents or the surveillance plane that went down almost the exact same time as this ship was being pirated or taken over by pirates early in the Bush presidency. It was the first real foreign policy crisis for the Bush presidency. And at the time, he was praised. This was the pre-9/11 Bush, praised for the way he handled it quietly behind the scenes, ended it with a release of those crew members of the EP-3 surveillance plane.
Right.
And he received a lot of praise for implementing what he said he was going to do, which was bring about a humble foreign policy. Now, the contrast was post 9/11, it was a very different presidency.
You know what's interesting as I had this conversation with you, man, and you were there. I mean, you were in the room where those decisions were made, and I know it's tough. I mean, let me read you something we're getting now from one of our responders here in social media. This is MySpace. Rick, President Obama's handling of the pirate hostage situation was very presidential. Unlike our previous CIC, he did not swagger into the spotlight and spout nonsense like "Bring it on," and he handled this crisis perfectly. Okay, that's all good and that's all good and well, and I appreciate somebody sharing that with us. But there was a Rooseveltian quality, and by this I mean, the big stick theory of Teddy Roosevelt. Walk softly, carry a big stick that Obama was able to use. But isn't it sometimes tempting? Isn't it easy to have the spotlight like this and go out there and say, like perhaps you and I would? I know I probably would from time to time. By golly, we're going to get these guys. How dare they hold an American hostage? There's nothing wrong with doing that, right?
Well, it depends on the situation, but not necessarily, no. In this incident, President Obama did not allow himself or his policies or decisions and actions to be driven by that need for instant results and instant gratification from the 24/7 news cycle that goes on in this country. Instead, he did handle it in a very presidential way.
But is it tough to not get sucked in by that? When you guys were sitting around saying, and I don't know if it was Karl Rove or the vice president or somebody who would call you aside and say, tell these guys we're going to get these guys, we're all over them. Is it hard not to do that?
Well, and sometimes
you don't want to seem weak.
Yeah, and sometimes it was even the president's own gut instincts of his initial reaction is this is what he wanted to say, and he didn't temper it when he should have. And you clearly played one of those incidences when he said bring it on, and later came to regret that. But, yeah, the President Obama was very presidential. He handled this very well. He deserves credit for it.